Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Paul Tranny here with the one and only Aaron Nace from PHLEARN in the house for day 3.
I have been having a fantastic time over the last couple of days, and I hope that everyone out there, including Uger, I'm not sure if that's how you say your name, but I hope you've had a fantastic time as well. I know that I've had a fantastic time teaching
sometimes
Photoshop.
That's the only way to put it, is fantastic.
I'm
into it.
I mean, it's pretty much my only adjective, so.
If you're gonna have like a filler word, everybody has like filler words
Yes.
or words they say a lot. That has to be like one of the best ones. And that's what I think about when, like, seriously, like everything from yesterday to Tuesday, just I would call them, of course, fantastic, but seriously would rewatch those, and I'm glad you can click on the replay tab, check out those previous streams. Totally worth a rewatch, not right now, because you have Aaron here live. Day 3.
The real thing.
The real thing, in the flesh. Ask him questions, give him a warm welcome. Good to have you here, Bojana, and Nicole, and Valder, and Alexander. Awesome. It's going to be a good day.
It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's what type of day it's going to be.
I actually was just going to say that without even, not as a part of the joke.
You wonder if you're going to be like really conscious of it now.
I am going to be super conscious of it. It happens every now and then and I make videos quite a bit, and I do my best to eliminate filler words like and ooh.
Yeah.
Every now and then, and I think I'm doing well. And we get comments every now and then, like YouTube or whatever, that's like, dude, you said this word 322 times in this video. Like, people will count.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like,
wow.
oh, good. I can never use that word again. I had no idea.
You just replace it with wonderful, and wonderful's the new word, right? But it's always weird if you don't. Honestly, ums and ahs are perfectly part of everyday conversation. So getting rid of it is almost unnatural, though, too.
It's difficult to do. Very few speakers do a good job with no filler words.
Yeah.
Difficult to do. But when you hear those people speak, you're like, okay, you know what you're talking about. Wow. I'm going to listen to you.
Yep. Into it. So we'll be keeping an eye on chat. Just so you know, all this week we've had Aaron, which has been wonderful. And we have you for 2 hours. Then Ted Chin will be up next with Voodoo Val as they continue their Photoshop compositing. That's what the week's all about. Alexandria from Alexandria's Lens is awesome as well, from 1 to 3. But this is the last day, so your last chance to speak to Aaron in the flesh if you can. So ask him questions, and you can watch the replays later. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, this is going to be a great broadcast. So over the last few days, we've done quite a bit of compositing. We started on the first day with the fundamentals of compositing and some things to look at when you're creating a composite image. And we moved into the different types of compositing as well, talking about frame compositing as well as element compositing. Yesterday, we moved into some more practical information when creating your own composite. We talked about how to match scale and perspective. We showed you how to match color and lighting, and we introduced some pretty interesting check layers. Now, for those of you who did not follow along yesterday, the live broadcast is on replay, so they can check that out on Behance. It's on YouTube as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So, see there, that word is again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be super conscious of it.
No, you're good.
So, you can check out those live broadcast replays, and they're gonna really help you with any type of compositing you're doing. Basically, they just give you a different way of seeing your image. For instance, we turned the image black and white to analyze our light levels. We would increase the saturation or the contrast to analyze things like our hues or relative saturation. So really, really helpful tips there. Now, today we're gonna be moving into frame compositing. Now, frame compositing is a great place for you to start off if you're interested in compositing. The idea with frame compositing is your camera is going to be on a tripod during the entire photo shoot, and different things can happen in front of your camera. Basically, all you have to do is mask those different things in. So we're going to show you an example of frame compositing here in just a minute, and then we're going to close out today's live broadcast with me anyway. We've got Paul and Alexandria. Does she go by Alexandria? Lex sometimes.
She goes by Lex. 'Cause
Lexi.
That's close to her last name. But
She's
yeah,
the best
Lex,
name ever,
Lexi,
by the way.
Alex.
Alexandria Lexington
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's descended from of royalty or something, right?
for the
What it
win.
feels like.
So we're going to finish out the live broadcast with the two of us this morning with a fantastic example of how to not only cut out hair, but how to paint hair realistically. We're going to show you how to create a custom brush. Are we able to distribute things like brushes?
What we could do is maybe if you want to do it later on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
That might be an easy way.
That's a fantastic idea.
They can follow up with you and you get some followers maybe. And then
Fantastic
send that out.
idea. I love it. I love it. So we'll be including that custom brush. We'll tweet it out after this broadcast so everyone can check that out. And I'm ready for it. Let's get into the broadcast.
Let's
I have
dive in.
some fantastic.
And by the way,
time
real
here.
fast, portfolio reviews are happening as well. So you can click on that portfolio review tab, submit your portfolio. And again, it's just behance.net/ like whatever your name is, that's your portfolio. We'll review those in about 90 minutes. So that's your current assignment if you're game for it.
Yeah, let's get those in. So we're gonna start off with a frame composite, and I'm gonna go ahead right into Photoshop. Anytime you're gonna open a bunch of images, like for compositing, it's a fantastic idea to go to File, down to Scripts, and then Load Files into Stack. So we're just gonna load a bunch of files. I'm gonna choose Browse here and just find our files for the day. So give me just 1 second to find these here on my computer. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna select all of the images that I'd like to put together, and we're gonna hit open, and it places them here in my little file list. Now, if you're working, let's say you're doing multiple different exposures, like an HDR, you can also check on attempt to automatically align source images. In this case, we are not doing any type of HDR, so we're just going to leave them just like they are. Let's hit OK. And it's going to bring in all these images. Now, this is an example of frame compositing. When we get these images here, you'll be able to kind of see what we're working with. This is one of my images I shot a few years ago called Light My Fire. There we go. Let me just get my Wacom tablet. Can you stall for a second?
Oh,
Gotta
yeah.
get my Wacom tablet working here.
No, yeah, you do your thing. I did notice, I don't know if you actually selected attempt to automatically align source images. Did you do that? by
I did
chance?
not in this
Okay.
case. If you're doing like an HDR or something, you know, something like that, that is...
I think this is great to do in general. Like anytime you're grabbing a bunch of images like JPEGs and you want them loaded in as layers because you're going to make a composite, this is the fastest way to do it, which is again, File, Scripts, and then locate those images is how you would do it. So, and again, I can do the same thing. Click OK. Good to have you here, Aaliyah. Hello, beautiful people. Good to have you here. And yes, we can, Jan Eric, we can ask that question here in a second.
I'm gonna reboot my computer.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
We'll be back after this momentary message from our sponsors.
I did exactly what you did, by the way, with just some random images. Probably not as neat, but everything kind of came in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
It just saves some time, you know, rather than opening up each individual image and then clicking them all into the same document. If you know you're going to be working with these, it saves some time.
Yeah. Can I talk about like my favorite like pro tip?
Yeah, let's do it.
Is this one. The fact that I don't know like which fish layer is this fish right here, right? Because I usually do it by selecting the layer. I'm like,
Yes.
which one is that? If you hold down the command key and if you look up here, what that does, that'll toggle on and off this button right here. It will automatically select it. I usually have that turned off, but if I hold down the command key, it turns it on temporarily. So I'm like, okay, turn it on temporarily, and now I can select this fish.
That is brilliant.
So I find that like really helpful when it comes to selecting.
And you can toggle whether you're going to select the layer or the group as well.
Ooh, is that a drop down?
Yeah.
Layer or group? Got
Yeah,
it. 'Cause
exactly.
that used to be an issue Like you would sometimes just select the group, and that's not
And
that
you
helpful.
don't want to select the group, you want to
Yeah.
select the layers. So you can toggle that in as well.
Good call.
Super helpful there.
Good
All right,
call.
we are getting my computer back online. What was your favorite thing from yesterday's class? If you had to choose a favorite.
I have a favorite.
Oh, you have a favorite?
Pick me.
What was
Pick
it?
me.
What is it?
It was the check layers, and specifically like threshold so far.
Oh,
something
really?
I never used is go down.
Isn't it
and-
fun to find a
Threshold.
tool you've literally never used in Photoshop and you're like, wow, there's a real practical application for this.
Yeah. And just to kind of recap, and I'm not going to do as good of a job of explaining it, but this kind of determines the amount of light. So I can see whether something should be as bright as it should be. Like her dress, that's what I'm having a problem with. It's just too bright right now. And threshold reveals that and keeps me in check. All right. we're
Check
ready for
layers.
you.
Keeping you in check.
Keeping me in check.
We are good to go. We're back online. I've got my images here that we are going to pull together, and this is just a fantastic example of a frame composite. So just a little background, photographed this with a friend of mine, Ashley Bremer, and wanted to create an image where she was looking into a sparkler, but have the sparks from the sparkler blowing at her face.
That sounds scary.
Sounds scary. And I wanted her eyes to be open
Oh, wow.
for this. So end image here wanted to have like sparks blow into her face and her eyes open. And that's a good time for frame compositing because you don't actually want to do those things for real.
Yeah.
You want to do those separately and then put them back together. So we just got a quick example here of a frame composite in which we actually pull these different images together. Now, we have 3 images of our subject here, so we can see this is kind of where we're starting, and you can see we actually
Is that a real photo too?
that is a frame. That is of yes, this is one photograph.
Awesome.
So before we get any questions on this, well before we ever did this with my friend Ashley here, I tested this on myself. So
Okay.
I had a sparkler in front of my own face and put a leaf blower. It's just a leaf blower and sparks. You can kind of feel them hit your face, but there was didn't hurt her.
So Ashley is okay.
Ashley is 100%. She's actually a fantastically successful model currently. She's
Wow.
doing very well. Yeah. Follow her on Instagram at Ashley Bremer. So this is one of the images that we wanted to capture, but in the end, I wanted Ashley's eyes to be open. So we're just gonna go ahead and make this layer visible. This is actually the layer that we want to use for her body, and this layer here we want to use for her eye. Now this was kind of like a little fluke that happened here. Her eye was open, the leaf blower was not on during
Good.
this photo. But a little spark did come and hit directly under her
that is
eye,
amazing.
which, again, she's totally okay. And, sometimes this sort of thing happens. However, it did result in an incredibly cool looking image. So we're gonna just put these together, and it's a great example for frame compositing. So we're gonna start with this as our background. Now I've got some other images here. These are like stock images that we're gonna use as filler. So this is going to be our background here. I like the pose of our subject here. Her hand placement is really great. Her face placement, the pose is really nice. However, I actually wanna use her face here, and I wanna use the sparkler here. So what we're gonna do is lower the opacity of this layer. We're just gonna simply bring our opacity down. There we are. And we're gonna kind of move this layer into place. Now, I'm gonna kind of focus on these two things separately. We're just gonna make sure her face is about the same size as the other one. So I'm gonna bring her shoulder right here to this other area on the shoulder. We're gonna hit Control or Command T and bring our control point right here, and then scale this layer up. So I'm gonna hold Shift as well as Alt or Option, and we're just gonna simply scale this layer up and get it in about the right place. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. We can always move it if we need to, but I want it to be in about the right place. So frame compositing, I use all the time to combine like head, body, arms, legs. Sometimes you'll take a picture of a person or an object and you'll see like, okay, the arm looks really good out in this image, but I like our subject's face from this other image. So this is a type of compositing. Again, it's all frame compositing, but you can use this to bring multiple images together and get what you want out of the image. Now we got a great question by Scott Hunt. Frame compositing, Scott is asking about frame compositing. Frame compositing is bringing multiple different frames together from the same photo shoot. So in this case, you can see we photographed a few images of Ashley with the sparkler, and we're gonna be bringing those images together to create something that's a little bit bigger than you would be able to get from one photograph. We've got some other great examples of frame compositing as well. If we have the time, we're gonna get into those. There are so many really interesting things you can do. You can work with scale, making objects, people or objects larger or smaller. You can do multiplicity. In other words, I could be here and I could be in Paul's seat as well. So you could have multiple different versions of an object. For instance, if you had a concept where you wanted a person in a field surrounded by flowers falling from the sky, 1,000 flowers. Well, you wouldn't have to actually photograph 1,000 flowers. You might just get a few flowers and move the flower in a bunch of different places, photograph the flower as it's moving, and then composite those together. So that's frame compositing. Element compositing is the other type of compositing. We worked on that a bit yesterday, and that's when you're bringing different elements from different places. So an image that maybe you photographed, plus a stock image, plus a 3D render, something you shot in the studio, and a background, all different elements from different places. So two types of compositing. Frame compositing is a fantastic way to start because most of the work is just in masking. Oh, you found an example here.
So this
Let's
was
check this out.
submitted from Chandler yesterday. So we were just reviewing some composites.
Ooh, that's pretty violent, actually.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
didn't realize that.
They're just candy bars.
Maybe,
They're
yeah,
just
those are candy bars for sure. This is
Twixes or
popsicles. Here, eat these.
popsicles. Here, have this popsicle.
You didn't finish your
have this
popsicles.
popsicle. And he's just like, I don't know who's worse. I think it's this guy.
That guy
Being
he's
complacent
the
like
evil
that.
henchman
Yeah.
overlooking the popsicle
So
massacre of 1989.
yeah. Anyways, good job, Chandler. Little disturbing, and remind me to never offend you.
This subject name, her name is Ashley Bremer. Were you able to find her on Instagram? We got a question here. Maybe we can.
Is this?
That's actually not her.
Okay, I was very close. Let's see.
BREHBREHMM. There we go. Right there.
This one?
Yeah, that's her.
Okay, good. The other girl was.
Yeah. So if you do want to follow Ashley, you can.
And that's what I was trying to look for, this like final photo. I was trying to be a little sneaky, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if she posted it, but
Well,
there she is.
We photographed her like.
Oh,
this was
and
probably
good.
8
Her
years
eyes
ago.
are fine. She's
She's
fine.
100%.
She's doing.
She has both of her eyes. She's doing very well.
Good for her.
So back to our frame composite. Now that we've put our subject in about the right place, what we're gonna do is bring our opacity up to 100. I'm gonna hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask, which temporarily turns my layer mask black. And then we're gonna paint white on the mask, just where her head is. And again, I'm kind of bringing in a couple different exposures. So my goal here is I gotta make these. There we go. Let's just bring down our opacity a little bit more, because I think, there we go. We bring her head up. Okay, so we're gonna try to blend these two exposures together. That's my goal. There we go. And we're gonna bring in our little sparkler effect as well. Okay, I think I made her head just a little bit too large. So we'll go ahead and just bring that down in size a little bit. And then this is, just an example of trying to bring in multiple exposures from the same photo shoot.
Nice.
There we are. And in this case, you don't really have to do a fantastic job with your masking because you're like, for instance, I didn't have to cut out my subject perfectly because my subject is actually there, right? Like I don't really need a layer mask. I just need to make sure I'm blending one image into another.
Very cool.
There we go. And we can see we've done a pretty good job at that. So the next step would be our subject's eye, because I do want our subject's eye to be open. So next we're gonna bring this image in. We're gonna lower our opacity here and basically move our subject's eye. We're gonna hit Control or Command T, because I do need to rotate this. Let's just go ahead and bring our control point around there.
Okay,
so you can see
right at it.
Yeah. We just wanna, line up the two images just as close as we can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as close as we can. We're gonna bring that opacity back up, put a black layer mask on there, and then we're gonna bring in our subject's eye.
Carl, your composite sounds fantastic. Him and his wife took a bunch of pictures of them at a party, but those two are the ones throughout the whole party. It's those two composited. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah, we party.
Yeah, we
have like a lot of friends too. Check it out. So let's just bring the opacity down. I'm gonna kind of match about where the eye is. Just again, as best as I possibly can. Maybe just rotate this a little bit more. There we are.
I did find some very important news on her Instagram.
Oh, did she get married?
No, she has a boyfriend.
Oh, okay. Well, good for her.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. She has a boyfriend. That's the big news.
Oh, that's the big news. Okay. Yeah. That's the big news.
As of October 15th, that is. So who knows? That was like a month and a half ago. A lot can change in a month and a half.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry. Don't make it weird.
Yeah, it's getting a little weird here.
Yeah, sorry.
It's getting a little weird. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. Here we can basically start to bring these exposures together, and we want, just that little bit of spark there, and then
I'm loving that spark right under her eye is amazing.
It really kind of makes the image, in my opinion. And it was an accident, by the way, everyone. We did not think that was going to happen. This is why we took the precautions to, not, there we go, to not have our eyes open when we were actually doing the sparks.
Which, that's amazing, to be honest with you. I mean, that's a little scary the more I think about it.
It is a little bit scary.
Your eyes are quick. I mean, she'd probably close her eyes if it was coming, but like literally.
If it was like right there, I have faith to say that she was.
Yeah.
She's pretty much a ninja when it comes to her eye speed.
Yeah.
There we are. Yeah, I gotta say, I got a pretty good record. No one has ever been hurt on a photo shoot of mine. No one's ever. I've got a pretty good safety record, and I aim to keep that. Safety really is super important because art and creating images like this is a lot of fun, but you really don't want anyone to get hurt in the creation of these images.
Was Ashley the same girl you used when you were doing the flooding of the building?
No. That was a different friend of mine in North Carolina. So this image I photographed in Chicago. The other image was in North Carolina. So we're looking really good. Now, there are a couple things that I want to do with this image to kind of help with like the realism just a little bit and the continuation of some of these sparks. So this spark, I kind of want that to continue all the way to the source there, like let's make it go all the way to the source. And then this one I want to be able to continue as well. However, I don't want to like mask that in necessarily. The reason is because I want to keep her existing eye, and we are working with a difference in light here. So I'll actually be able to just select this spark and then just duplicate it. It's really easy to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. We're going to use one of our new favorite tools called Apply Image. Remember from yesterday, which you can take a snapshot of everything you see and put it on a new layer. We'll go to Image and down to Apply Image. There we are. So our layer is going to be merged, everything we see. Our blending, we're going to change to normal and hit OK. So for those of you who were not here yesterday, no big deal. The apply image will basically just take a snapshot of your image and place it on a new layer. So as you can see, I have a new layer that contains all the information from my underlying layers. It's non-destructive. It's not the same thing as merging because you still get to keep all of your underlying layers. So now with this new layer here, what we're gonna do is go into our channels. I wanna select this spark here. I wanna select the spark, and the reason I'm going to use channels is because I can use the difference between light and dark in my channels to make selections. So let's go to Window and down to Channels. There we are. We're gonna take a look at our red, green, and blue. Now what I'm looking for is the greatest amount of contrast between light and dark. And in this case, you can see red, green, and blue. That contrast is coming primarily into, well, it looks, in this area anyway, it looks fantastic in the red channel. So we're gonna go ahead and duplicate this red channel. I'm gonna use my levels to just enhance the difference between light and dark just a little bit. There we go. And now I can go ahead and turn this into a selection. So I'm gonna hold Control or Command, turn this into a selection, and what this does is it actually turns the light areas into a selection. Now, have you ever used channels before?
It's been a while, honestly.
Yeah.
I usually don't use them, to be honest with you. But that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, they're one of those kind of like hidden tools. If you have a big difference between light and dark in your image, channels are a great way to make those selections. So for instance, if you're cutting a person out of their background and they're on a light colored background and they have dark hair, you can use channels to make an extremely accurate selection and cut that individual out of their background. It does a very, very accurate job of making selections. So anytime you have a contrast between light and dark and you want to turn that into a selection, that's when you want to use channels. Okay, so now that we have our selection, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just mask this in, because remember, we made an apply image. So let's go ahead and click on our layer mask. There we are. And now we can see, check this out, guys. Check on this layer, I just have the lighter areas from my image. Basically all the darks are completely gone. I just have the lights, which is really fun. And I can further refine this layer mask at any time. Now, we can change our layer blend mode from normal down to screen, which will just kind of increase that brightness a little bit more. And now I've got some sparks that I can just kind of use. This one's kind of doing its own thing. So we're gonna just transform it and kind of line it up with that other spark. So it just kind of goes.
It kind of makes it, are you gonna have it make a turn above her eye or?
Well, I'm gonna connect.
In front of?
Remember, because there's this other spark that we had to interrupt because her eye is there, right? But now I can just kind of like match that spark up. Look at that. I can match that spark up, and now I have some more spark that just goes right in front of her eye. So we literally took the spark, put that on a new layer, used a blend mode, and now that spark is right above our subject's eye. So we can do this a couple times. Now, I got a great tip. Have you ever wanted to make 2 layer masks on the same layer?
I can't think of a time when I have.
I want to do it all the time.
I usually end up making a smart object and that has that layer mask, and then I add a layer mask.
And then you add a layer mask to
that.
And that's a fantastic way to do it. Now, there are many instances in which I would like to create 2 layer masks on a layer. For instance, this is one of those cases where I'm using this layer mask. Let's hold Alt or Option and click on this layer mask to see what the layer mask looks like. And as of now, it's defining the lights and darks of my image, right? I'm using the image itself to define the layer mask. However, I only want part of this to be visible, okay? I only want the part that's right here to be visible. But if I go ahead and paint black everywhere else, I'm gonna lose all of this nice information on my layer mask. So this is one case in which I'd like to add another layer mask. Unfortunately, you can't have 2 layer masks on the same layer. So there are 2 ways around that. you mentioned a great way. You can convert this layer into a smart object and then apply a layer mask on that smart object, which is one great way to do it. Another great way is by grouping the object with itself.
Oh, yeah, I love this.
Yeah, grouping the object with itself, creating a layer mask on the group, and then inverting that layer mask. So we basically now have a layer mask on a layer mask. We're just using a group and the mask on the group.
Into it. Well, I'm also into these works that are happening behind us because it's time for Chat and Win.
I love it. Chat and Win.
Welcome back, everyone, and it's time for Chat and Win. All you need to do is say something in chat, preferably something positive, like, hey, love the sweaters, or whatever.
We are
like
both
how we're always
sweatering today, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
We've done a pretty good job theming our wardrobes throughout the week.
Theming.
Very
It's
unintentional.
It's kind of cool. But, some intelligible words would be great, and that's how we know there's a human at the other end of your keyboard, and you could win $30 credit to moo.com, allowing really solves all your printing needs, whether it's a holiday card or business card or just nice cards like your hair looks great today. That's the one.
That is a nice card.
Your
And
hair
by the
looks
way,
great today.
your hair looks great today.
Thank you.
For real.
So does yours.
Thank you.
Or like you outstanding job parking. Like if you had that, if you got that on your windshield.
I
Great
would
job.
be super stoked to
and
see
didn't
that.
mean it, at,
Not in a mean way, just
sarcastic
like
way. Yeah.
you really parked that vehicle.
All right, congratulations to Stephen Houstra. Stephen Houstra, you are the proud winner of a $30 credit. So fantastic, Stephen. Congratulations. Everybody's very envious of you right now. You got $30.
They've got more chances to win, though. If
They do.
they did not win during this broadcast, are we doing the same during the next subsequent broadcasts?
You got it. With old Ted Chin will be up next. So between him and Voodoo Val, they'll be drawing another name, as well as Alexandria later on today. So
stick around.
yes, and
Keep
don't
that
forget
chat lighting up.
And also don't forget about portfolio reviews. You check out portfolio review tab. We'll be selecting just a couple of those and kind of diving deep into them, getting like your opinion, your advice.
Happy to give any helpful advice I can.
Perfect.
Yeah. And by the way, everyone, a fantastic little note that you may not know, during this broadcast, Paul and I can actually see your chat. There's a screen. We're looking at a camera right now, but right next to that camera is a screen that has the chat up. So if there's anything you'd like to say to me or Paul, we are seeing everything that you have in that chat. So make sure to light that chat up.
And we're also accessing your webcam. I don't know if you know that. So we could actually see you. Go ahead.
That
we
was
see
you doing that all this time?
We could see. We could see Danny's just hanging out in his underwear. No,
Oh
I'm
boy.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
No. We're not that good. We just want to read your chat. That's as far as we want to go.
Yeah,
that's
all.
how we can
That's all the
communicate.
technology we have. I'm gonna just use a little disclaimer to say we cannot actually see your
We
webcam.
can't really. We don't care that you're just eating a PB&J in your underwear or whatever. That's what I would usually be doing. Not really. Too much information.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to compositing. What do you say
Change
about
the subject.
some compositing? We learned how to create a layer mask and then add another mask to that by simply grouping a layer with itself and then adding a layer mask to that group. It's a really helpful tip.
So good. So good. Yeah. I mean, and you can add as many layers as you want.
You can keep going. And again, if you're just, doing a rough paint or whatever on a layer mask, that's not a big deal. But there are many times in which you would want to use multiple layer masks. For instance, if you did a good job cutting a person out, but part of them you wanted to fade into the background, then you wouldn't want to mess your cutout up. So group that with itself, put a layer mask on the group, and then do the fade on the other layer mask. So you have two independent masks.
I actually like this better because I mentioned a smart object, which that means you then have to go into the smart object, kind of clean up that mask. And here everything's at sort of this top level and you can edit much easier.
Just kind of right there for you. And I don't know this for sure, but I think using smart objects will increase file size. So my assumption is that doing this in this way will not be as, will not increase your file size as much. However, I'm sure there are some folks out there who are super technical and know whether that's right or wrong. That's just what that's my guess, but I'm happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
So if anyone knows, please let us know in the chat. Well, let's go ahead and get this spark here right in front of our subject's face. And again, remember, I've got my mask that's grouped with another mask. So to pull this spark back, look at that. All I have to do is just paint it right there. And we have our spark back, and it's just gonna go back to our main sparkler.
Painting with white on that black mask layer.
How easy was that? Couldn't really be easier. Now, the great thing about this is I actually have a couple of these sparks that I want to continue. See, there we go. We solved the issue. You can see this spark just kind of comes out of nowhere, and now it connects to something.
Into it.
Solve the issue.
And now, it really, even if there wasn't a spark in front of her eye, you would want to, because that also helps the reality of the whole picture.
Definitely, I completely agree. Now, with this spark, we can use the same exact technique to add to this spark. So I'm gonna hit Control or Command J. We're just gonna simply move the spark down here. And just because the spark was a little bit larger, I'm gonna hit Control or Command T. We're just gonna scale this up a little bit. There we are, let's hit Enter. And you can do all kinds of fun things here. For instance, if you wanted to do a rotation or a flip, this would be a great time to do it. So let's go ahead and do a rotation here. We'll zoom out, rotate about 10 or 15 degrees, zoom back in, and here we go. Oh, you know what? We zoomed out a little bit too much there, or rotated a little bit much. Here's our little tip. Sometimes you want to rotate something, but you're on just a giant layer right there. I'm gonna bring my control point about to the area where I wanna do my rotation, okay? So again, what I'd like to do here is extend this little spark, here. So I'm gonna bring that to about the point where I'm going to extend it, and then I'm gonna take my control point and move it there. So now I wanna do a rotation, but if I zoom all the way out, I'm not really gonna be able to see what I'm doing, right?
Totally.
So I'm gonna use my rotation right up here. I'll just type something in. I'll just type 5, and that'll rotate that 5 degrees. And I can see it zoomed in, and it's gonna rotate around my control point. And I'm like, you know what, that's not quite enough. Let's do 6 degrees and see how that looks. All right, let's do the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There we go. We'll hit Enter. I just could not resist that one.
Yeah. Did you know you can do math operations in any text field in Photoshop now?
No, I had no, what?
But like brand new. So if you wanted something 3 times the size, let me try to.
Is this in just 19, CC 19?
Yeah, so it's brand new, just really fast.
Incredible, I had no idea.
This turtle, and I might want to increase it in size like ×3, so 7.95 inch times 3 will make it 3 times the size.
That's incredible.
You know, so again, dividing it, you know, then we want to bring it back down, divided by 3. Let's bring it back, come on. Ugh. Zip, not break stuff, but, and good thing there's multiple undos right there. Divided by 3, and it's back down to its original size. So that's pretty helpful.
I had no idea. Was that in the
brand
release?
New. Yeah, and I don't know why we didn't talk about it. I mean, I use that all the time in Illustrator.
That's brilliant.
It's nice that it's in here. You know, you want something a third the size or third, like, what do you do if you want something like a third of the screen? You know, you have to anytime you just have to add it up, or you just do divide by 3. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll usually do a percentage if I want something a third of the screen. Yeah. Like I'll fill the screen, and then I'll do a transform, and then set my control point to the left, and then I won't lock my width and my height aspect ratio, and then I'll do my width as 33.33%.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But this, honestly, much nicer.
Pretty good, huh?
Super clean.
Photoshop now does math, not just fancy design compositing. It's a math whiz too.
Even another reason why you don't need to pay attention in school.
And Tom mentions that the same thing. He does the percentages.
Oh, you do the percentages as
that's
well.
good.
Yes. Well, there we have it. We got a couple of sparks kind of come in here. We just need to mask this one out right over there. And we've got a great example of a frame composite. So let's just do a quick recap here. Now we've got some other layers that I use to just like add some drama in. We'll use those in just a second. But as a quick recap, what we're looking at here is not a single photo. What we're looking at here is a combination of multiple photos. Again, this is a fantastic example of frame compositing. We're gonna turn these off and see this is where we started. We've got our body and our hand placement where we want. We added a hand, or added a head rather. We've did a little head swap as well as added the sparkler in there. And then we went ahead and opened up our subject's eye and added the sparklers back in as well. So our effect is now complete.
Nice.
And our subject was safe during the entire time.
Can I ask a question?
Ask
Just because I
away.
want to know how you got there. And I think somebody mentioned this in chat, and I think it's really cool. How you got the, when you did apply image.
Yes.
And then you got this image to become the mask for this layer. Didn't you do that?
I used channels to do that.
Oh, that's when you use channels.
Yeah, I use channels to do that. So you can make a selection from your channels.
Okay.
And then use that on a layer mask.
So you didn't, is that how you did it yesterday as well?
No.
Oh,
no.
man.
Yesterday I used apply image on the mask.
Ah, okay.
So apply image can be done on a layer. Let's give everyone an example of when you might use apply image as far as a layer is concerned.
Okay,
there
so
it
you
is.
Did that right down there. Okay, perfect.
I actually didn't even do
Oh, you didn't-
that, but this is an option. You can also just like click on the mask.
Okay.
Like if you go to your layers panel, like you can just, you just select your mask and then do apply image right to that mask.
Okay. Very cool.
So you can either way, whatever workflow is better for you.
And then just hit okay.
Yeah. And then check that out.
Look at
The
that.
mask itself is the image.
Wow. That's
The
really
image
cool.
is the
And
mask.
I think you did this when you were working with like a solid color. Is that when you did that yesterday?
Yes. And there are many applications for using a snapshot
Nice.
of your image
That's just
on the
great.
mask.
Okay,
Yeah.
Very cool.
Let's go ahead and show you a couple examples of apply image. It's one of those tools I feel like everyone would benefit. So we're gonna create a new layer. Go to image and down to apply image. And here we're just gonna choose, again, layer is going to be merged. It's gonna take everything that we see and it's gonna put it on a layer, because I created a new layer first. We'll hit okay. Now in this case, there are a couple things that I wanna do. The first thing that I wanna do is add a little bit of a blur, because this is already kind of like an art image, and I want my viewer to be looking right up here. I don't necessarily need my viewer to look down in this area, so we're gonna apply an advanced blur to this.
Cool.
Now, already this is a composite, right? So I can't just apply an advanced blur on a new layer. This is why we're creating this layer mask. Let's go ahead and just use the crop tool here to crop in, so we're just seeing our image. We don't need to see all that information just now. There we are. We're gonna go to filter, blur, and then I think this is one of my favorite here. In the blur gallery, field blur. Have you used field blur? I think it's one of the best blurs in Photoshop. I'm really into it. Now with field blur, you're able to choose these different blur areas. So for instance, I'm gonna go ahead and put one down there, and we're gonna put quite the blur down here. And this is not, I'm not trying to create a photorealistic result here. This is more like an artistic interpretation. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click here on my subject, and we're gonna reduce the blur. We can just type in 0 right there. Or I could do 0 plus 0. And here we can see we now have a blur, and let's go ahead and put one here as well, because yeah, we don't want so much of a blur there, but maybe just a little bit. That's looking pretty good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and right up here, we're gonna put a big blur. There we are.
So you're right, Carol. It is similar. The apply image, you could also use Shift Alt Control E, which will take all the layers and put them in one new layer.
Yeah, that's what's known as a merge visible, and they are similar, but there are some key differences between apply image and merge visible. Now, historically, I used merge visible exclusively for this sort of thing. Now I'm using apply image, and the reason I use apply image is because we have a little bit more control. For instance, we can choose the blending mode at which images will blend together. I'll show you that in just a minute. So apply image gives you more control than merge visible. So we just did an advanced blur on there. Let's hit OK. And this is one example of when you might want to use apply image, because that advanced blur I wanted to do on the image as a whole, I would not be able to do that on a blank layer. I can't do it on a background layer because this is a composite image at this point. So making an apply image makes a lot of sense. There we go. So there we have, there we have our advanced blur.
I even like what it did in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah,
there.
we did
nice.
The blur there as well. So let's just go ahead. I'm gonna hit, let's just make sure. I'm gonna just zoom in a little bit here. There we go. We'll just turn this off and on. So now I'm able to apply this advanced blur to the composite. We're gonna do a little bit more work to it as well. So we've got some great questions in the chat about using Shift Option Command E, which is basically a merge visible. Now, historically, that's been a wonderful command. I believe apply image is just, well, it gives you more options and more flexibility. So personally, I stopped using the merge visible. I now use apply image. However, natively, there's no keyboard shortcut for apply image. So that's why everyone's like, Shift Option Command E, Shift Option Command E, that's what I want to use. There is no keyboard shortcut native for apply image. However, you can make your own.
Oh yeah?
We'll show you how to do it, because that's what I do. I don't go to image and apply image all the time. I have my own keyboard shortcut, which is Shift Option Command A. So let's show you guys how to make your own keyboard shortcuts. Super helpful here, because I use apply image all the time. We're gonna go to Edit and down to your keyboard shortcuts. So Edit and down to keyboard shortcuts. Now anything that you are doing repeatedly in Photoshop, I highly recommend either learning the keyboard shortcut that's associated with that command or creating your own. Apply image is one of those that does not come with a keyboard shortcut out of the box. I'll show you how to make it. We're gonna go here into our, make sure you're in your application menus. We'll go to Image, and then I'm just gonna simply scroll down until I see Apply Image. There we are. And here you can see I've created the keyboard shortcut, Option Shift Command A. I'm on a Mac, so you can use on your PC, Shift Control Alt A, or whatever you'd like. You can just do Command A if you want, and that'll remove it from Select All. So all you have to do is simply click right here, hold down the keys in which you'd like the keyboard shortcut to be, and that will become your keyboard shortcut for that.
What are your other favorite keyboard shortcuts?
I have Gaussian blur as a keyboard shortcut, Option Shift Command G. I have high pass as a keyboard shortcut, Option Shift Command H. I have, by the way, making a layer mask is not a default keyboard shortcut in Photoshop.
Oh, wow. And we do it all the time.
Literally
like
all the time. Yeah. So I have Shift Command Option M will create a layer mask. I also will do a layer visible. How often do you want to turn a layer on and off? Like make it visible and invisible to see your effect there? Keyboard shortcut, but it's kind of hidden, so I'll show you what it is. So you got to go to Layer. We're gonna go down here. It's a little bit tough to see what it is, so we're gonna go down here. By the way, here's my layer mask command. So I'm in layer mask. Option Shift Command M is gonna make a mask. Okay, so we're gonna go down here. We're still in our layer command.
You do the same thing I do, by the way, I feel like. When I make keyboard shortcuts, I use all of the keys because I know that it's not taken.
It's not taken, yeah.
So mine's are always Control, Option, Command, and then M for mask is what I'd make it.
Exactly. That's what I do. That's what I do because they're not taken. So it's in your layer, and you want to go down to hide layers. Okay, and I use the keyboard shortcut Option Shift Command V for visible. That's what makes sense to me. So if I hit OK now, there we go. Let's check this out. Option Shift Command V. I can make this layer visible and invisible.
It's, yeah, toggles.
Yeah, toggles both ways.
Nice.
Yep. So here we go. There's off and on with a keyboard shortcut. This will also work on a group.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
So many times you make a change in Photoshop and you're not sure if that change is actually going to be something you want to stick with. So being able to toggle that off and on can be really helpful.
Easy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite keyboard shortcuts that aren't in there that I'd add to customize is tiling all the images. Because too many times if I'm dealing with lots of images, I just do Option Control Command tile. So there's everything, and then bring it back. So we'll jump out here.
Ooh, I like that.
Let's go to this one. Let's go back to here. And that, and again, it's just under Window. It's customizing. Sorry, View.
No, it's in Window.
Window?
Yeah, and then go down to Arrange.
Yeah.
And then
in
Tile.
here somewhere.
Yep, right here, under Cascade.
Tile, and then consolidate all to tabs.
Yes.
Those are the two that I did. But
Oh, that's brilliant. I wouldn't have even thought to do that.
yeah, it kind of helps out a little.
I love this. Sharing our pro tips. And if anyone's
Command
got...
J, that's a good one. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, if anyone's got something, their favorite keyboard shortcuts, let us know in the chat. Or if you've created your own keyboard shortcut for a commonly used command, let us know as well. So I will do, for instance, let's check this out. I can make this visible and invisible. I can put a layer mask. I can invert my layer mask.
I love how you're doing all these as keyboard shortcuts.
I mean, that's the way to get fast in computer. I mean, any program you're working with, that's the way to get fast. You can do quite a bit with keyboard shortcuts. So let's go ahead and we'll just undo that a couple times because we don't need that. Now, I've got one more little tip here on this image before we move into our next one. What I'm gonna do here, because I applied a blur onto my subject and it looks cool, but it doesn't look like super realistic, right?
Down there?
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but it kind of just looks like a Photoshop blur. So a tip that I have, if you're gonna apply a blur to one of your images, like we did here, let me just put that up there and I'll show you the before and after on that blur. So there's the before and the after on that blur. It's a pretty significant blur. A fantastic thing that I like to do is add a texture over top of that blur, and it just helps it make it look more realistic. So I've got some textures here that I photographed. You can find these textures anywhere. This is like literally, you can see this is like a window here that I photographed. Anything, especially if you have a light area on a dark background, that makes a fantastic texture. Let's do this here. This is like a piece of tile or a piece of granite. There we are. This here is just like a little blur, like a light blur. So for instance, this I photographed this at night. If I want to just change this blend mode from normal down to screen, then you have like a really nice light blur that you can just like run on the side of your image. Let's just do that. Let me stretch it out a little bit more. There we go. You get something like that. Just these little textures that can help you be a little bit more, add a little bit more to your image. Here we have another light blur, so we'll just change this from normal down to screen as well. And then you can get these other fun effects. They're kind of like camera filters, Can kind of move it. And the cool thing about these, in my opinion, is that they're photographic. I actually photographed this blur, right? I photographed this texture. So it's not just something you drew in with your brush tool, which doesn't actually contain nearly as much information as a photograph. And now let's do something like, I'm gonna hit, let's grab an adjustment layer. We'll go to Hue/Saturation. I'm gonna hit Shift Option Command G. There's like just Option Command G to clip that. And now I can adjust the hue. So I can start moving my hue around. I can go to my colorize function and start moving that around as well.
And this is when it gets almost kind of difficult, because you could end up with like different versions where you really gotta ask friends, like, which one do you like?
Yeah.
Because it looks so good. I like it, the blue splash.
The blue kind of looks cool. I'm liking this like kind of little bit of a cooler color here.
Yeah, okay.
Like more of a magenta. But Exactly, yeah. Ask your friends. Get your friends involved. Now we've got another texture here. This was literally just like a subway tile. I'm gonna change this layer blend mode from normal down to screen. Okay, so we see a little bit of texture there. However, I can enhance this a little bit by using an adjustment layer that's clipped to this layer. So really great tip here. If you want to use a texture like this, you have it set to screen, but you're like, you know what, I can still see too much of the background. Happens all the time. We're gonna grab a levels adjustment layer. I'm gonna clip that. So Option Command G is gonna clip it, and I'm gonna simply make my darks darker. There we go. Which on the texture simply makes my darks disappear, and now I'm simply just left with this texture. So we can do a few things with the texture. I can just kind of bring it down a little bit smaller, and this can, look at that. This texture kind of just becomes like little sparks that are like flying off of that thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Just making it even more dangerous. Just joking.
And you know, this was literally just a tile, like a subway
I
tile
would
that
never
I
guess.
photographed. You know, and now it looks like, because we just took the light parts of that texture and made it little sparks and things like that. So ton of different options you can do with your textures. And again, using adjustment layers that are clipped, you can go from that to that. Incredibly easy to do. You can still mask this, obviously, like if there's some part of the texture you don't want to be visible. But it's just a fantastic way to continue to add texture to your images.
Yeah, into it. How do you keep the file size down? Any tips for keeping file size down for
Yeah,
composites?
okay, that's a great question. So first thing that I would recommend doing is, you know, just getting rid of any layers that you're not using. So for instance, in this case, that layer we're simply not using, we're just gonna hit delete on that layer, so we don't need it. Other things you can do for file size, let's just go ahead and zoom out here. I'm gonna go to Image and down to Reveal All. Reveal All. And you can see within my file, I actually have a lot of information that's outside of there, and all that information is being stored in my Photoshop document. So let's go back to undo, and if I know that I don't need that information here, okay, that's a very important prerequisite, by the way. If you absolutely know you do not need that information, then you can delete it. Most of the time I recommend keeping it there, but when you're done with your composite, go to Image and then down to Reveal All, and you'll be able to see everything that's outside of the bounding box. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit C for the crop tool. Now, normally with my crop tool, up here where it says Delete Crop Pixels, look at this, I'm using your,
Yeah, I know,
using
I'm
your
into
techniques
it.
here. Up here where it says delete cropped pixels, I pretty much always have that unchecked because I want to be able to get that information back if I need it. But in this case, I actually want to delete that information that's outside there because it's gonna save file size.
Yeah.
So let's go to delete cropped pixels. We'll make sure that's checked again. And then I'm not gonna change the crop. I'm just gonna simply hit enter and enter again. It's gonna remove all that information. And then once I'm done removing that, I'm gonna go to this delete crop pixels and I'm gonna uncheck that again, just to be sure for future use, I'm able to come back at any point in time. So those tips are gonna help you save on your file size. Okay, now I am a big believer of non-destructive editing. So I would never merge layers together or do any type of flattening. I hear that question quite a bit, but I would highly suggest not doing any type of flattening or merging. And the reason is,
You're afraid of commitment. Kind of.
aren't we all a little bit? The reason is you never know when you might want something to change. Let's say,
Afraid of commitment. Go ahead.
let's say that you're working on an image and you like where it is, but maybe a couple months down the line or a couple years down the line, you look at an image and you're just maybe a little bit better at editing. Maybe you have a more refined vision of what you'd like, and you want to be able to make some changes. Well, you don't want to have to start over from scratch again. It makes much more sense to be able to just get in those layers and make the changes that you want to change. Not only that, but if you're working as a professional and you're working with clients, oftentimes clients will come back and ask for revisions or changes, and sometimes this can be months or even years down the line. So I'd never suggest merging anything. Always keep your layered files, either the PSD, if it's a large file, it's gonna be a PSB, as in big, or a TIFF file. Always keep those on hand. You can upload them to a web server online if you wanna save storage on your computer. Just make sure you have those, because I can't tell you how many times I've worked, most of what I do is teaching with PHLEARN.com, teaching education, but I also work as a professional retoucher. So as a professional retoucher, it's quite often that a client will come to me and ask for, hey, we did a project, this far, maybe we did this 6 months ago, a year ago, year and a half ago. I have a new project and I want to make sure these new images match the old images.
Okay.
I'll want to go back into the PSD, back into my layered file with the old images and see how I edited it so I can make sure I can match those with the new images. Or we'll get some revisions and say, like, I like what you did, but let's make the retouch a little bit more subtle. Let's bring back a little bit more of the imperfections, or let's reduce those a little bit more. And those changes, not only from yourself, but also from your clients, having these layered files and working with a non-destructive workflow is extremely important.
Yeah, that's huge. I have a kind of a related question. I'm curious as to how you manage all of your images and everything.
Yeah, that's a great question. I can just show you a very quick example of my workflow here. So let's go ahead. We're gonna just go into a Finder window. We'll just create a new window. And I'll give you an example of how I manage files, because not only are we, let me just create a new folder here. There we go. Okay, file management. So not only I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. Throughout my career, I've worked as a photographer as well as a retoucher, working on my own images as well as client images. Now with PHLEARN.com, we produce education. We have an education company. And I need to access files for our, we do photo shoots and then we do videos and education. So we have me accessing files and we also have everyone else on my team accessing files. So the point here is getting a very good file system down is extremely important, because it allows you to find exactly what you need at any point in time. And also, if you're working with a team of people, they should be able to find exactly what they need without having to look for it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share with you the file system that we use internally, and then you can choose to use this on your own. So what we do is internally we have like a photo directory, like a picture directory, and this gets updated and it's backed up on multiple different RAID-array hard drives, by the way. Backup is super important. So we'll just start this off with something like picture archive. There we go. We actually do year by year at PHLEARN, but you can do however you want. Now, when I complete a photo shoot, I always create a folder by date. So we'll just say today is December 6th. So we'll do 12.06.18. And then I'll go ahead and name this folder to reflect what we're doing. So we're just gonna call this file management. There we go. So already you can see we're super well organized, right? So if me or anyone in my organization, you know what? Usually I'll do an intermittent folder in here too. I'll do a 2018 folder. I keep everything organized by date, just helps out. Okay, so our picture archive, we have 2018, and then we have the date, so file management. So we have the date and the title of the project there. Now within here, if I've done a photo shoot, I'll do a capture folder, okay? And within my capture folder, this is where like my raw files are gonna go. So something, like if I'm shooting with a Canon, these are gonna be .cr2, Nikon, .nef. These are my raw files, possibly JPEGs, but I always shoot in RAW because you have better file size. Or sorry, you have more information in your files. So we have our capture folder. Next, I just usually create a PSD folder. And this is where I put all of my PSDs. So anytime I'm working on an image, like for instance, this image, let's go ahead and save this. Shift-Command-S. Where am I going to put it? File Management, Picture Archive. It's 2018 right now. This is our date. It's going to go in my PSD folder. And then oftentimes I'll give this a date too. There we go. Especially with a project that may change throughout time. Like for instance, if you're doing website updates, I'll name all my files usually with the month and the day, or sorry, with the month and the year, because this is my new homepage that I did, now it's 3 years ago. It's no longer new homepage. So I'll go ahead and give it a date so I know this is my homepage as of that date.
Would you ever call this like sparklergirl.psd or anything like that? Would you ever describe
I
the
give
photo?
things working names.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give things working names, definitely. Now, in this same folder, I'll create an output folder. And this output folder, this is where my assets are going to be, like my JPEGs that I'm going to put on the internet. So let's go ahead and save one of these out. So I'm going to go to Shift-Option-Command-S. That's going to bring up our Save for Web and Devices dialog. There we go. And then here, we're just going to choose, there we are. You can see our output folder and 2018 file management. There we go. So you can see it's in my output folder here, 2018 file management. Now, within the output folder, again, this output folder, this is where it's going, right? It's the output. So this would be for print. This is going to be for web. This is going to be for marketing, social media. You can do different things there. So usually I'll do something like this, file management, and then I'll just call this like full size. And then, because again, I work with a group of individuals and we do, marketing based on these images, uploading to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of thing. Typically in Photoshop, I'll then save out a few different versions at a few different sizes. So in this case, our width, I'm gonna just change to 2000 pixels. Okay, it's gonna go in the same folder, and this one I'm gonna call 2000. So this way, when I'm done with a project, I'll already have a few different sizes. I'm just gonna give the 2000 example right now, but generally I'll go 2000, 1000, 750, 500, and 250. Okay, that way they're ready to go. Oh, we wanna put this on, as a bio image. We have our file size ready to go. Now, any type of like marketing, things like that, that would go in here as a new file as well. Okay, we also shoot a lot of video. So we would do video, and then within that we would do screen recordings, because we create tutorials. We would create an audio folder, and we would create a video folder, or usually we just call it camera. And then within this we would have like A and B. So you kind of get the idea here. Everything is very well organized, and this helps me out. Oh, I need to find this project that I did. Okay, I think it was in 2018, so I go to 2018. Oh, 2000, yeah, December 6th, file management. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, capture, these would be my PSD. Output, these are my final image. PSD, here we go too. So not only is this gonna help me out, but this is also gonna help out anyone I'm working with. They're gonna know exactly where the PSD is that's associated with that photo shoot or with that project.
Yeah, it's all pretty straightforward. Do you use TIFF files at all? Or like if they're larger, people are asking about PSB versus TIFF. Sounds like Sue used to have files that were PSD, but then saved them to TIFF and they were smaller.
Fantastic, yeah, so
interesting.
Sue, to answer your question, I use TIFF quite a bit. They are the industry standard, and the reason is TIFFs can be opened with other programs other than Photoshop. So a PSD can really only be opened natively in Photoshop. Same with a PSB, as in big.
Which is funny.
Yeah. However, TIFFs can be opened in many different programs. So when you are working with clients, especially, again, if you're doing any type of professional compositing or retouching where you're working with other people's images, they're your clients, then I would suggest saving out as TIFFs because that's the industry standard.
Okay.
If you're just working on your own images, then I would say a PSD is fine most of the time. If it's too large, then a PSB is going to be what you go, it's gonna be your go-to. I would say personally, most of the time I do save as TIFFs because they are industry standard, and it's Again, TIFFs support 16-bit, just like PSDs, as well as layers and literally all the information there. So, and it sounds like Sue found that her TIFFs had a lower file size as well. So that's an added bonus.
Very cool. And there's even a PSD-T, which I doubt you really need to use.
I don't even know about that. What is that?
You should actually just be able to rename a PSD to PSD-T.
Okay.
And it's like a locked file. Like you can open it, but you can't save back to that file. So like if you had a web banner that you kept swapping out, but you wanted to keep the format basically the same, that'll be the template. So you open it up, you change the text, but if you try to hit save, it's going to say you can't. So you'd save as something else. But that original template file like never changes.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, so it is kind of cool.
Oh, and you don't even need to do a save as. You just literally add a T right to the end of it.
That should be the case. I mean, I can double check, but yeah, usually that's how it works.
I love it. I'm learning so much. I hope you're learning a lot at home.
My other fun little tip, by the way, and people probably know this, there have been some other ones, Control Tab to tab through, by the way, like when we're talking about files, blah, 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 blah. Like find the image that we want. And then I want to know where this exists. If you right click on the title of it, you can find out where it's at on your desktop.
Nice.
You know, and jump right to it. So yeah.
Look at that.
Tips.
Did you make that image? I
did.
The Taiwan image? I like it.
It's totally not Taiwan, by the way. I just like, Taiwan.
Taiwan,
like,
sure.
I think this is Japanese. This is a Chinese dragon here. So I just said, I just changed it to travel.
Travel, yes, travel.
All encompassing. And up here at the top, I just did a lookup table. Because my colors are not that good right here. It's not, I could tie it all in together better, but this hides a multitude of sins, I feel.
Another fantastic thing
two-strip look
that you can use is a gradient map. Have you used gradient maps ever?
Yeah, I'm into it. Fun.
Gradient maps are one of my favorite things. Let's see if we can pull up a gradient map and find something we like.
All right, so I just selected gradient map. I don't have too many gradients in here, but it'll usually shift it from one color to the next.
And you can create your own gradients for a gradient map as well.
Yeah, freaky. It works best with like two colors, I feel. Like so far, I feel like this one's probably the strongest. And then from there, maybe I try a new gradient.
Yeah, so if you double click just like right here on the gradient itself, so double click right there, now you have a gradient editor. Have you ever made your own gradients, by the way?
No, I mean I have, yeah.
Let's add another color here. So if you simply scroll right down here and click, that adds another color.
Ooh.
So now let's go ahead, let's try like a lighter blue there. And you can also click here and move it on your timeline. There we go. Now if we want our highlights, I actually use gradient maps all the time to color tone my photos. They're fantastic. Let's say we want our highlights to be like a lighter color and a little bit less saturated. We're just gonna go right there. And there we go, that's our highlights. And we can pull this color. Let's just take our saturation down a little bit. There we go. And then we can kind of move this color around as well until we're getting something that we like. And then, you know, somewhere in here, it'd be nice to have a little bit of a red, right? So we're just gonna pop a red color in there. Go a little bit lighter. You know, so we're able to, excuse me here, we're able to get a few different colors in there and move them around and kind of see how they interact with everything there.
I like it.
So,
and I feel like it helps to not go too crazy with the number of color stops, like the different colors.
Different
colors.
You
just did was like pretty subtle, and it works really well.
And then something I'll do also, so we have that in there, and it's, you know, obviously I would usually do a little bit more refinement, but from here you can lower your opacity. So you can get some of that effect in there, but bring in some of the original colors as well. Or you can change your blend mode from something like normal to soft light, and then you can color shadows, midtones, and highlights together. So you still get the effect of the image, but now your shadows and midtones and highlights are being colored the same throughout the image. So a few different little pro tips there for using gradient maps.
I love it, and I love it. Just helps tie it all together. We do have there are more gradients that you can access.
If you double click right here, Yep, there we go. And you can go to load. There we go. Oh, sorry, it's not in load. It's in your little gear icon there. You can go from instant
there we go.
photographic toning. There we go. And hit append. There we go. And you've got some photographic toning gradient maps in here too.
I'll just save yours really fast. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I don't mind.
I'm gonna just take this off.
He didn't even save my gradient map.
But
beautiful.
anyways, like this is this is awesome.
Yeah, and then again,
place
you
to
can
start.
lower your opacity on these gradient maps or change your blend modes and get some interesting looks there. So if you're kind of experimenting with one of your images and you're not sure, should I go with a cool look? Should I go with a warm look? Gradient maps are a fantastic way to try a few things out.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you, Aaron. We have about less than 15 minutes before we dive into some portfolios. So get your portfolios in the portfolio tab, and we will review those. Only have time to do a couple, so.
All right. Well, I think it's time. We've been kind of hinting at this all week. Let's go ahead and save that out. You can see, go ahead and close that out. We've been hinting at doing some really fantastic work with hair all week, and I think it's time to jump in. What do you say?
Let's do it, yeah.
Let's do it. So here we are. We're just going to load up our image with our hair. Okay, let's go ahead and hit open. Now, here is an example. I know one of the biggest things, so this week we're talking about compositing, right? Mm-hmm. And when we composite, there are many things to keep in mind, and we've covered so many different things over this broadcast. Now, one of the most important things to keep in mind, or a skill to master, is cutting an object out of their background. And if you're cutting out something like a cube, it's relatively simple. But cutting out complicated objects, or objects that have hair, for instance, like people, that can be just a little bit more complicated. So what we're gonna do, let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look. This is an image that I already cut out. So Paul, would you guess that all of these hairs are painted? All of this hair
It's painted?
All of this hair is painted using a custom brush technique that I'm gonna show you.
I would say there's no way, is what I would say.
There is a way.
There is a way.
There is a way. Let's go ahead and show you the original image. So I'm gonna hold Shift and click on the layer mask, and you can see this is the original image.
Really tough.
Not cut out. And
really hard to cut out.
This kind of hair detail, very, very difficult to cut out. This is an incredibly difficult image to cut out hair with that amount of detail. Now, let's go ahead. I'm gonna hold Shift and click back on the layer mask. And let's go ahead and take a look at the hair we've been able to cut out. Every little strand, every little detail. Look at all these wonderful little details we have. All these little flourishes and things like that. So we're able to do a really, really accurate cutout of our subject's hair. And again, here's our before image and here's the after. So you wanna know how to do it?
Yes.
It's really, really fun. So we're gonna do a little bit of setup here. It's gonna take a few minutes, and then we've got our portfolio submission, and then we'll probably come back and finish this up after because we'll have some time after the portfolio submission, right?
Yeah.
So this broadcast is till 11, so we got about 45 minutes. Great. What I'm gonna do is to go ahead and duplicate this layer, and we're just gonna do what I would consider to be just a quick mask. So when you're masking an object out in Photoshop, my suggestion is anytime you are working with a hard edge, and by hard edges, I mean a well-defined hard edge, like this edge of our little moped here, the edge around our subject's arm, those are what I would consider hard edges. A soft edge would be something like hair, or a cloud, or some steam or mist. Those are soft edges, where they're not super well defined. So when you're working with hard edges, my suggestion is to use the pen tool. So P for the pen tool. I'm not gonna cut out the entire bottom area of the subject. If you're interested in learning that, by the way, we have some great tutorials on PHLEARN.com. One of them is called How to Master the Pen Tool in Photoshop, where you can just learn how to cut all of these subjects out. So what we're gonna do for now is just make a simple selection around the hair. So I'm gonna take you through the entire process from a rough selection with hair, and then we're gonna go through and actually get this detail. So here's my rough process that I would suggest doing. I would basically suggest using the pen tool to create a rough selection, and notice how I'm making a selection of the hair, but I'm actually staying slightly to the inside boundary of the hair itself. Because as soon as we get to these like feathered edges here, that's where we want a little bit more of a different technique, because that's where we're gonna get some more reality from our selections. There we go. So let's go ahead and right click. I'm gonna go ahead and make that into a selection and feather that radius by about 5 pixels. Now let's just pretend here. We're gonna go into pretend land. We're gonna pretend that I also use the pen tool to accurately cut out the rest of my subject, but I've already made the layer mask to save some time. So what we're gonna do is click on our layer mask. I'm gonna invert that layer mask, and basically I'm just gonna like undo all that nice work I did with the hair. Okay, just to show you kind of what we're working with here. There we go. So this is, if you're curious about like the first step when it comes to cutting a person out, this is where I would suggest starting off. You have a great selection around your subject. I think I got to sneeze.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. You just go do that. Good. That was good. Thanks for the heads up.
Woo. Sometimes they just come out of nowhere. So this is where I would suggest starting off. You can see our hard edges here. We've got a great cutout of everything that has a hard edge. And then our soft edge here at the top, we really don't have much information here at the top. So this is where I would recommend moving to when it comes out to cutting out hair. Okay, so we're at a really great spot now. Our subject is pretty well cut out of the background. The bottom looks really, really nice. The only thing we have to do is take care of those individual hair details. Now we've got just a few minutes, so what we're going to do is we're gonna create a custom brush.
Custom brush.
We're gonna create a custom brush. Now you can do this whether you're using a mouse or a trackpad or a tablet. You don't need any special tools here. First thing I'm gonna do is create a new layer. And on this new layer, I'm just gonna choose my regular old brush tool, and I'm gonna choose black as my foreground color. So let's go ahead and zoom in here. Now with my regular brush tool, I'm gonna go ahead and right click, and we're gonna bring our hardness up to about 40% here. Keep in mind, what we wanna do is kind of imitate hair. So we're gonna bring our hardness up to about 40%, and I'm just gonna click right there. We're gonna make our brush a little bit smaller, and I'm gonna click a couple times here. Little bit smaller brush.
Just using your bracket keys?
Yep, using my open and close bracket keys, exactly. There we go, and just kind of clicking around here. When we think about brushes in Photoshop, we have a shape that kind of gets extruded along a path or wherever we paint, right? There we go. Now, the shape of the Photoshop brush can be whatever you want it. And in this case, the shape of this brush is going to be all these little dots that are going to wind up being hair. Okay, so this is all I've done. Now, this is something you can do different for every image. Have some fun with it, play around. There's really no commitment. As we all know by this time in the broadcast, I have an incredible fear of commitment. So what we're gonna do is turn this into a brush. To turn this into a brush, we're gonna go ahead and make a selection around our
On white,
dots.
by the way.
Yeah, do it on white. So you have a black on white. So you have little black dots on white. Now with this area selected, we're going to go to Edit and I'm gonna go to Define Brush Preset. So define our brush preset, and I'm just gonna call this Hair Pattern. There we go. And let's hit enter. We're gonna deselect. By the way, that was on a new layer, and you want that to be on white. So now let's take a look at what we've just made. If I create a new layer and hit B for my brush tool, it's actually gonna automatically go to that hair template that I just made. Now let's right click here, and you can see from our brush menu, we have hair pattern is indeed selected at the very bottom. So we're gonna zoom out a little bit, and I'm gonna use black as my brush and start painting around.
Nailed it. Done.
Nailed it. Done. As we can see, it doesn't quite look exactly like hair.
A little too much product in it or something. It's a little lumpy, a little clumpy there.
Not exactly what we want just yet. So we're gonna go into our brush menu. Let's go to Window and down to Brush Settings. There are a few things we're gonna do in our brush settings to help this look more like hair. Now the first thing you'll notice is it's just a bunch of little dots that are kind of separated, right? What I would like to do is make those dots contiguous. I don't want that separation to happen. So what I'm gonna do is take my spacing and we're gonna bring it down. I'm also gonna make my brush a little bit smaller. So by bringing our spacing down, look at this. Now, I'm not painting with a bunch of little dots, I'm painting with hair.
Nice.
And this is just the beginning. There are so many interesting things that you can do with this. So let's go ahead and make our brush just a little bit smaller. We're gonna paint with some hair. Now we're gonna turn on things like shape dynamics. So turning my shape dynamics on, I'm using a pressure sensitive tablet here, which it's a fantastic tool for editing in Photoshop. The one that I use is called a Wacom Intuos Pro tablet. I'm gonna turn the size jitter. The control is gonna be set to pen pressure. So that means the softer I press, there we go. The softer I press, the smaller my brush is gonna be. And the harder I press, the larger it's going to be. So now we can see I'm able to get something that is just a little bit more of a natural flow. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit larger and show you how this works. So now we're starting to get something that just looks a little bit more like hair. And you can see with each strand that I paint, it's just looking a little bit more and more natural. Now there are other things you can turn on. In this case, you can turn on your angle jitter, but in this case, I wouldn't want to just turn my jitter on, but you can turn things on like direction, which is interesting. So as I change direction here, it will actually change the direction of the hair itself. So you can get some more contiguous results with this as well. All right, so let's just undo that. In this case, we're just gonna turn this off. There we are. Now, in our broadcast yesterday, we went through the color dynamics menu and we turned our brightness jitter up, making some of these brighter and some of these darker. Let's go ahead and choose a sample from this hair. There we go. I don't want to apply per tip here, so we're just going to turn that off. And check this out. Some of these are going to be a little bit lighter, and some of these are going to be a little bit darker.
And that's per stroke.
Yeah,
right?
This is per stroke. So if you do apply per tip, it does like little dots, kind of like every little time it does it. But turn off apply per tip, we'll just turn our brightness jitter down a little bit. And now each of these is just gonna be, there we go, we'll go ahead and turn that off. Each of these is just gonna be a slightly different color.
Nice.
There we go. So you can see we're starting to get a little bit more realistic. Now we are well on our way to creating a realistic brush that we're gonna use to further define the hair. And we're gonna do that right after our portfolio submission. So stick around, make sure you're here for our portfolio submission. We're gonna go over this in just a minute. And when we come back, I'm gonna show you how to use this brush on our layer mask to define the edge and outlines over here. Now we're getting somewhere.
That's the missing piece.
That's the ticket.
I'm into it. All right, cool. So yeah, we're gonna launch into this if everybody's ready. do right. Well, we're back. What? Oh, is the air is it breathable? Like we are in the spaceship.
Okay.
I think it is breathable though.
Oh, it is breathable. Okay.
And we're probably it's hard to hear.
I thought I
in
was
here.
dying for a second, but good.
Yes, please keep your hands and feet inside the spaceship at all times. You can see
Woo.
we can breathe. It's good. We had to sort of step out in our spaceship to see these glorious portfolios. Hold on.
Wow.
Let's bring them full screen.
Wow, you are just a fantastic space worker.
I'm gonna take this off though. Like it's.
Oh, we don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
We pressurized our ship.
We pressurized our
Okay,
ship.
so we're not gonna die if we're gonna.
Fantastic portfolios.
Those sound effects are so realistic.
Yeah, so
just
realistic.
then.
We're
Wow.
actually in space. Things are floating, as you can see. My coffee, my coffee's floating. I gotta grab it. Let's put it back over here.
Wow.
Make sure everything's
Space
secured.
is really confusing.
It is very confusing. We don't know enough about it. We were able to actually secure a couple portfolios, as you can see right here. Congratulations to Zavanave Photography, fine art photographer. This is going to be fun, from Argentina.
Love it. Cordoba, rather.
Cordoba?
A good friend of
Cordoba.
mine is from Cordoba.
Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful, beautiful city. Old architecture. It's one of my top 10s I want to visit.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Nice.
absolutely stunning. It's a very art-centric city as well.
Well, now you have another friend there.
I have another friend.
Zavanave. And yeah, so we only have time to review a couple.
Oh, look, and she's in the chat.
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful. I love it already. This is great. I usually kind of travel down here, see the focus, which is, of course, photography, digital photography on the web. Yeah. I would like to actually see a little bit more. I know you can add a little an about paragraph. So I'd be like, hey, you know, I've been in the career I've been doing this for so long, and I'm open to new projects or something like that. Concerning an overall portfolio review.
There we go. Beautiful.
But let's dive into these. And Zavanave, since you are with us, let us know if you want us to check out one particular portfolio piece you're proud of. So let us know if you have a favorite. Otherwise, we're just going to dive into one of these that just looks cool. Starting with this one.
Wow, I'm into it.
The Black Whisperer.
Fine art photography. You know, I would say, give it a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Nice.
There we go.
Live on Adobe
I
Stream,
know.
you get a thumbs up. I have nothing to critique on this image. And I just would say that it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I like the use of that background like taupe color.
Yeah, I like that it's not pure white.
Pure white
I
would
say
be
that.
too much, and maybe she played around with lots of colors, but that totally works, and I agree.
Yeah.
Into it.
Critiquing images is tough when they're so good.
Yeah.
What am I going to say? Just good job.
Good job.
Oh, and she says that is really old.
Oh.
So let's
Hey,
find
we
let's
could go
find a
a
newer
little more
one.
recent. We can.
Let's go to silence.
Okay. Silence it is. Oh, this we have a little bit that we might. Okay, Shape of Water.
Oh,
I got a
fantastic
quote.
film. I dig the use of texture here, and your hair does look like it's flowing underwater, or the subject rather. I don't know if this is you or not. The use of color is really nice. It's a fantastic fine art image.
nice
I'm
pose. You know?
definitely into it. Yeah.
Eyes closed, looking away.
Yes.
Into it.
Yeah. Good job.
Zavanave, you are really good. And again, the tones are really good. Like, this looks really good.
Yeah.
The coloring
Yeah, your
of
work
this.
with color is fantastic. Cool. What is this?
I'll find you in my dreams. Wow.
That's pretty
You know what
dang
I would
cool.
like to see though is like kind of maybe the making of. So I'd like to see the original like images maybe below this.
That's a good call. Yeah.
You know, more detail on whether you took the photo or if it's, did you Is it a stock image?
I do like to see making of. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think your use of color and your understanding of color is just at an expert level. And in my opinion, that's your strongest gift as an artist. And it's a powerful one too, because color is very complex and not everyone has that gift. So yeah, continue to use that gift. The subtleties in colors and the differences in saturations between your subject and the background, it's subtle, but you can tell you have a good understanding of color.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to...
Yeah, again, into it.
Yeah, very
really nice color, really nice texture. I get the feeling of being kind of cold and alone.
Let's see, in between. Yeah, sure. It's fine art. You don't really have to give it an explanation at all.
Yeah.
As I guess
to the
technicians, we kind of want to know how it's built and like what you had to overcome in some of this. Just again, how like if maybe this, I don't know, like what are the details behind it? Like what changes did you have to make? Was it really that color? Like this blanket or whatever? It looks good. It's very much like classical paintings.
Yeah, they do remind me of paintings.
Yeah.
I love that when photos are edited to look like, have a painterly feel to them.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah, a lot on fire. Looks like, what's the quote down there say?
Something like, demons dance on old wounds, seeing is believing, but feeling is being sure. I just say ouch.
Yeah, I like you, Zevany, have used my artwork as a tool to work out my own emotions and some struggles and personal things that I was going through. And it looks like possibly, and I don't know, but possibly you were maybe working out something that was that you were wanting to overcome, or some thoughts or emotions that you had here. And I've had a history of using my artwork to express myself as well. And I gotta say it's carried me through the dark times. And I think it can be a wonderful tool to help you with self-expression and self-realization.
Very cool.
Yeah, you know what?
Love it.
I gotta say, just like as a personal note, as a side note, I've noticed that my own work, I've had like dark periods where I'm like, everything's gonna be death,
Yeah.
And then these days, I'm like actually pretty dang, like I'm good. Like
pretty happy.
I'm pretty happy. Like I gotta say, I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm like super thankful for that. And so like my art now is just like happy and bubbly and like woo, color,
Into it.
And it's really fun, So we have periods of darkness, we have periods of of fear. And then we have our periods of lightness. And to be able to look at your work and see a reflection of yourself in that work is really fantastic. And to see your evolution and your growth as a human being through your artwork, I think is a fantastic tool.
I agree. I was going to mention one more thing about this. I think she could have moved her up, but I'm glad she didn't. Like, good job with the composition, basically.
Yeah.
I like the amount of black that's up here because it makes it feel heavy and kind of emphasizes this sort of on the groundness. So good job with compositions with all of these.
Yeah. Oh, and Zevany says it was a really sad day.
Oh.
Yeah. And I've had those days too, and this is the type of work that I created on those sad days. So yeah. And I could be wrong here, but maybe creating this helped you work through that sadness and help you express it, and maybe helped you find your way to happiness.
Yes. Well, you are awesome. You produce great work, as we can see. We'll switch over to the other one in a second. And these are just so compelling to look at. Like, I'm totally intrigued by looking at these thumbnails, especially this one. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Great.
Color is beautiful.
Look at that. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little freaked out, but I'm into it.
Yeah. I'm totally into it. I like, and I congratulate you for creating work like this, because I know sometimes it can be a little bit like all I want to do is create this type of work, but then like, oh, are people going to think this way about me? You know what I mean? As an artist. But I congratulate you for creating this type of work because it really, it's a good expression.
Yeah, totally. Again, good use of color or the lack thereof, I think. Like you said.
Yeah,
she's
just
really
like
good with
that
color.
red. She's a fantastic understanding of color.
No, man, it's sort of that light gray in the background. Great
Yeah.
job. All right, so well, we could look. Let's move on. I want to save time for the other one as well. Great work. It looks like you use. I mean, is this you? Is what I'm wondering.
She did mention that a couple of these are self-portraits.
Okay. I love this.
Yeah,
Into it.
this is beautiful. That could be an album cover. Yeah, and a little bit less dark. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. And not overworked. Sometimes you can overwork a piece.
I do that.
Okay.
Yeah. If this were me, I would put 10 times as many splatters in there.
Yeah. So like an exercise in restraint here is really
Yeah.
what took place.
Yep.
So good job. Yeah, so follow wonderful Zavanave. Since she's in chat, you should be able to click on her name and appreciate her work just like we were doing so. And you might even find more about her out at her URL. Only thing I'd say is I'd love to see kind of like the making of because I'm so intrigued by all these pieces. That's my only comment.
It's just fun to see how things are made. It
Yeah.
doesn't even matter what it is. Just show me how you made it.
Yeah, yeah. And because chances are people think it was really easy. Like, oh, they were laying down, like, you don't know. Was this white? Did you have to colorize it? What did you have to take out of the picture? What did you have to add? Like, what hurdles did you have to overcome?
Yeah, what's going on?
We want to know. All right, let's dive into this next one, which looks like it's the Studio District, which will remain nameless. I guess it's just a whole studio in Montreal. Just beautiful. Have you been to Montreal?
I've never been to Montreal. I was in Canada. I went to Toronto and I went to Niagara Falls last year, which, by the way, kind of terrifying. If you've ever stood next to the water at Niagara Falls, especially on the Canadian side, it's like you have the instant realization that if you were to like fall in that water, you'd be done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. And there's just like a little wall. Like it's a wall like the size of this table. Like you're standing here, it's like not even that tall.
That's
it's like
scary.
exactly this. It's like you're here, there's the wall here, and right on the other side is death. It's just
Wow.
right there. If you step up, because you get in that water and it's moving very fast, and then the falls is like right down there.
Are you sure we're supposed to be right here?
Yeah,
Is
no,
that how
it's
it feels?
terrifying. I can't believe that they don't put a guardrail up there. And yeah, Niagara Falls is no joke, man. For anyone who's ever been there in the chat, you'll know what I'm saying. Like, if
Wow.
you've stood next, it's like, whew, powerful.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
Anyway.
Yes. Zavanave also, everyone was like a self-portrait. Is that if I read that correctly? Which is wild. Okay, Studio District. I don't know if they're here. Would love it if they are. They could always watch the replay later. Either way, I think everybody will hopefully find our feedback useful. It's interesting with the Studio District. First of all, right down here. The neighborhood is a place of convergence of ideas and daring where everyone uses his talent to realize your photographic projects. I don't know what the neighborhood is.
It looks like maybe it's a...
the Studio District, the neighborhood? Is that their... I don't know.
It could be a collective of artists.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like most of these are multiple
owners. It looks like maybe a collective of artists or a possibly like a post-production workhouse, like a, post-production house. Looks like they do possibly a mix between 3D retouching and compositing.
Wow, so many. Oh, you could share your ice cream cone with someone. Unless, I don't know what this is. I have no idea. Cornet A+ magazine, I don't know.
There's
Anyways.
probably a tagline somewhere in there that we're not seeing. Studs shoes. Kind of reminds me of Burning Man.
Yeah. Any of these jump out?
Let's go up.
at you?
Let's see what jumps out here. I'm digging this 4X Telus / Netflix. Looks like we have some maybe if you scroll down, it'll show us a little bit. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's some good Photoshop work there. Possibly some 3D as well. I'd be interested in seeing like a speed edit or a making of this image. That would be very, very nice.
I love these birds. These birds and like breaking the border and like just having things outside of the letters and numbers is cool.
Yes, definitely. Oh, and here's a little zoom in.
Oh wow.
You can see there's quite a bit going on here.
The light source is coming from the same direction.
I have a little hunch that this is a bit of 3D mixed with some Photoshop. That's my hunch.
I don't know. I kind of want to scroll down and see if there's
like a making of.
Yeah. And then we go to this.
Yeah, totally different concept. This might have been a sketch like in the making, like, hey, TELUS/Netflix, did you like this? And they're like, yes, but we want more Earth involved. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well, hockey.
That's so cool.
So maybe this is just a few different concepts for the same client.
Wow.
See, and that one looks like 3D, right? Like, doesn't that look like it came out of a 3D program?
It's like pretty crisp.
If someone drew that, congratulations.
Yeah, and learn 3D if you did. Oh, here's some sketches. Good.
Yeah,
good.
brilliant.
Now there's maybe going to be a waterfall or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. See, there's a start in
model.
3D.
Oh, and actually, so that's one thing I'd suggest. You can put off to the side in Behance the products that you used.
Oh, that is nice.
You can even write in like C4D or whatever.
That is nice. Even if they're not Adobe products?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, go Behance for opening that up.
For sure. I love this on the light gray.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So polite. Any other ones? There's so many.
Oh, Ryan says TELUS is one of the big communication monopolies in Canada. Like AT&T would be here in the United States.
Caribbean photography, retouching, advertising. I like this texture on these letters.
That is a nice texture. The lighting on the photograph is great. The dirt kind of coming through the cleat. Fantastic.
There we go. Wow, super clean. Right?
Yeah.
That's so good.
What are they, standing on glass? How do you even do this?
Right? Love the lighting.
Yeah.
Maybe there, I don't know. Maybe a water bottle. It's probably, I don't know if it's baby oil, because you say you use
baby oil is one of the tools that I use when I want this look, but I know there are multiple different tools to get that type of image. Yeah.
I love it. Anytime you have this, create this depth.
Yes.
The lettering.
Yes, which we can do later in this broadcast because we're going to be cutting our subject's hair out.
And I love that font. Anytime you're going to use text really large, how can you tone it down?
They did photograph them on glass. Would you look at that?
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, seeing these behind the scenes, for those of you who are watching this broadcast, seeing these behind the scenes really is quite nice as a viewer. So if you do have any behind the scenes photos, or if you just have a friend who's like, hey, can I come hang out with you on the photo shoot? Give them a little phone and say, yeah, take some behind the scenes images.
Into it. I like, especially this one right here. This guy's just like eating a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. That's our secret. I love it. Bam. Following you and multiple owners. Shout out to Colin and Martin also for working on this.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Brilliant.
We have about 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Or less.
I could just spend 7 minutes staring at this one image.
Right. Oh, I love the limited color palette. And look at how much, it's just like so much going on.
And is that a crystal for the unicorn horn? Unicorn horn?
Yeah.
What do you call that? Does anyone know what you call the horn of a unicorn? Is it a corn? Is it a horn? Is it? Does anyone know the name of that?
And why is it called a unicorn anyways? I think it's actually a French term. I could be wrong, but it
could be one.
Well, it should be unihorn.
It should
why
be
is
unihorn.
It just not unihorn? Why,
Yeah.
Unihorns.
Unicorn.
What, was that too easy? That's too easy.
Where does the C come from? That's
why corn?
my guess is that this is called a corn, and it has one of those. It's a unicorn. That's my guess.
Oh, it's a trophy? Is that what I don't know. We were talking about the horn for the... By the way, great job turning this into a nice little pattern back there.
Yes.
That's cool. There it is. Oh, this is where we get the making of.
Noelle says it's called a face rod.
A face
rod. Head spike. Yeah, I like face rod too, Deanna.
Face rod.
Pretty good for the win.
There's the face rod right there.
Oh, so they photographed the face rod. There we go.
Into it.
On pink, no less, to get that color.
That's what you would do, Aaron. I could easily see you didn't take a photo of it because you're thinking, okay, maybe, you know, if you're part of a team, somebody can do a 3D crystal type thing, but this is the way you're going to get the most realistic look, I think.
Personally, I would have used a piece of quartz crystal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my jam. I'm a little bit of a crystal enthusiast.
Yeah, you are.
Which
might be
everyone in this room knows.
We've seen your crystals.
And by that, you're actually referring to crystals.
Yeah, it's a forehead shank. All right, he's being ridiculous, but we're into the forehead shank or the face.
I'm into all of it. To be honest.
We are. I want you to finish up that though. By the way, we should jump over that to yours.
I'm happy to. Yes.
So Studio District, fantastic. Can't say enough nice things about all of this. Obviously, they're probably super busy working on stuff.
Yeah.
They're full of.
Well, anyone who's really talented is usually pretty busy as well. Those two tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah, which is why I don't ever blame somebody for even not having their portfolio up to date. It's like, hey, they're too busy working on a regular basis. So, big thing I would say for your portfolio is to make sure you have work in there that you want to get. So if you want to do more photography, because there's so full of stuff, if they want to do more photography, imaging, just have that content there.
I dig it. That's it. Or would you suggest someone had multiple portfolios for multiple different?
Ooh, yeah, that would be interesting. That'd be a great idea. You can use Adobe Portfolio to make a whole website and just select the items that you want. So yeah, categorizing would be great.
Yeah.
So multiple portfolios. Into it.
Well, I thank everyone for submitting their portfolios on Behance. Very fun.
Yeah. Wish we could review more. Wish we had more time.
Yeah.
But I also want you to finish up this hair because I think we're kind of on a cliffhanger with this.
We are just having a great time, and we're about to finish this up. So for those of you who joined us earlier in the broadcast, we created a custom brush for hair. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this custom brush to actually simulate hair. Now, in this case, I'm just using a brush tool to kind of paint some hair. But that's not exactly where we're actually going to go with this. I'm going to do just a couple of things like bring our minimum diameter up just a little bit here. And we're going to make our hair just a little bit smaller. So although you can just create a brush and do something like that, and that's a heck of a lot of fun, what we're going to do is we're going to use this brush on our layer mask. And that's where things get really interesting. So let's go ahead and just save this here. We'll just call this hairbrush. There we are. Now, my goal is to disable this layer mask temporarily. So I'm going to hold Shift and click on this layer mask. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use this brush that we just made in combination with the pen tool. Have you ever stroked a pen path?
Yeah, but I haven't ever done it in a project.
Okay. Well, we're going to grab our pen tool. Now, I know this seems like a bit of an aside, but it's going to all come together in just a second. So we're going to make our pen path here. We're going to bring it up around there and pull it right down here. So just a nice, simple pen path that kind of follows what's going on there with the hair.
It looks like we have about a minute and a half left.
Okay, and we're going to be able to get that. So with this pen path stroked, what we're going to do is I'm just going to create a new layer. We're going to right-click on this pen path here and go down to Stroke Path. Now, when you choose to stroke path, you can actually stroke this with a tool. And I'm going to use the brush tool, which uses the current brush I have selected, and I'm going to choose Simulate Pressure.
So you don't need a Wacom or anything.
Not at all. Awesome. So I'm going to hit OK, and you're going to see it kind of just brings that in there. And this was just on a new layer. Now, I don't actually need to use this on a new layer. What I'm actually going to do is do this on the layer mask. So now I'm on this layer mask. I'm going to use my pen tool. We're going to right-click, and I'm going to go down to Stroke Path. Okay, using the brush, Simulate Pressure, it's gonna stroke this with white, making it visible on my layer mask. We hit OK, and there we have. Let's just go ahead and kind of bring this out a little bit more. We'll just do a few different refinements, make our brush a little bit smaller. And we're just gonna continue to do this. So as I go through and I stroke this path, there we go. Let's just bring this in there. We're just gonna right click and again, there we go. Go back to our path. As I go through and I stroke this path over and over again, what we're actually seeing is it's going to be using the brush that we created. Let's just bring this down there. It's using the brush that we created to give this path a little bit of life and define our layer mask. So we're actually defining the edge of our layer mask now with the brush that we just created. Let's just do it a couple of times here. There we go. And we're just gonna bring this in a couple more little times. And we can see we're creating a very nice bit of detail there.
Love it.
All right, this top area looks a little bit coarse just because my brush was a little too large. But then if you want to bring your minimum diameter down, and check this out, if I wanted to then give my hair a bit of a natural looking edge, something like this, what we can do is bring the hair, simply bring this path outside of there. We're gonna go down to stroke path here again, hit OK, and then look at that.
Boom.
We have multiple different hair that then converge into,
You're the man.
there we go. So check this out. Now I know we're, at a little bit of a time crunch here, but we've got basically the same idea. All right, we'll do it one more time and then we are done. So let's just go ahead and click off our path. There we go. And we can see we have natural hair fiber coming out. Just continue that exact strategy and you can create hair from scratch.
Aaron Nace, everybody. The man, the myth, the legend. So check him out on PHLEARN and all the social medias and everything. We have Ted Chan, Voodoo Val up next. So stick around, everybody. Thank you so much, Aaron. You are the best.
Thank you. I had a fantastic time. Thank you to everyone here as well as everyone who's watching the broadcast.